Welcome to another weekly Forex forecast, and we start on the DXY on the weekly time frame. And we had another bearish week last week, but not much progression. Going down to the 4-hour time frame, we can see we are still trading below this small low to the left. We had identified this bear flag continuation, broke out early last week, then formed another bearish continuation, had a small impulsive move towards the end of the week, and are now in another smaller continuation here. So overall, right now, I'm expecting for price to accumulate more volume in this area. Preferably, we will see a test again of this low before we then see a bigger retest and maybe a bigger structure, bear flag structure retesting this low here to the left, and before we then see a bigger next impulsive move, a directional move. So right now, as long as we don't see a complete change in sentiment and price breaking above this low again, followed by bullish continuation, I'm leaning more towards dollar weakness in the coming weeks. Moving on to Euro US dollar on the weekly time frame, we can see we are approaching some areas of interest. So the next area of interest is this liquidity area here. We see here it's a strong liquidity area visible on the weekly time frame, and then of course the next two value areas higher up. And we are still in a nice bullish momentum run. And of course, according to the DXY before, we lost a bit momentum here and had not too much progression. Right now, going to the 4-hour time frame, we can see here we have some areas to consider. We have here a small liquidity area. This could be a running channel, and price tends to retest the start of the running channel, but I have an alarm here, and if I get at least a 2-touch continuation retesting either this low or this low here, then I would entertain a long in the overall higher time frame positioning. Keep in mind this is 4-hour time frame, so again that might take a few days before we see a clear directional movement or finishing of this structure. And similar to the DXY, unless I don't see a complete change in sentiment and a drop out of this overall price action here, followed by bearish continuation in this area, I'm leaning more towards Euro US dollar long plays. Pound US dollar is more or less the same. Looks a bit different because we did tap already quite a significant area of interest here. We can see that is clearly visible on the weekly time frame. However, we still have bigger value areas a bit higher up. And yeah, but you can see we tapped this area and we had a small bearish reaction here last week, but you can see after this very strong bullish impulsive week before, we did not even retrace out. That's maybe 20-25% of the previous week, so that does not really look like a change in sentiment right now. Going down to the 4-hour time frame, and we can see we have some clear areas of interest. And I'm looking now very similar to Euro US dollar for a bigger structure, a more accumulation in volume, because we had this very nice bearish reaction initially after tapping this high here, but then failed to break below this liquidity area to the left and started to creep back up. So that does not really look like a bearish continuation right now. It looks more like we might see some more bullish volume accumulation before we then break further to the upside. US dollar yen, another interesting one on the weekly time frame. We can see we have still this gap here to the more significant value area to the left. We had a very nice impulsive run here a few weeks, and we are now in a correction and are looking for the next impulsive move to the downside. Going down to the 4-hour time frame, I'm looking for here, let's do a bit more of like pattern separation right now. We have here a liquidity area here. We had a near miss, and then we tapped into this area. We failed to continue here first. We had to tap into more volume a bit higher up, and then had a nice bearish reaction here. And what is also a nice confluence here in this situation is we retraced more than 50% of this initial bullish move here. So we are actually prime positioned for a bearish continuation. And on the 1-hour time frame, you can see we ended with quite corrective price action. But yeah, we had 4th of July on Friday, so holidays in the US, and therefore that could be the reason why we had not more progressive price action in the dollar. So I'm looking right now for a break totally below this price action here, followed by a smaller, lower time frame bear flag continuation to then enter a short, easily manageable to these lows here, the structure lows, before we then maybe see a bigger reaction or forming a bigger structure again. Euro Australian dollar on the weekly time frame, we can see we have still some room to the upside. We are still in a bullish run. We lose a bit momentum. You can see the week is again not a lot of progressive price action. We are approaching an area of interest to the left. It's clear visible on the 4-hour time frame, and then of course we have here the higher time frame value areas a bit further up, and we can see here we have again a lot of pairs right now show some corrective price action, so they are a bit harder to trade, or a lot of them are neutral. So I'm also a bit more neutral in these pairs, but we can see here if we do a bit pattern separation, we do have this trend line here. We had a nice impulsive move here, and then a lot of corrective price action, and then we broke out here and are now trading on this high here to the left. So again, this means we actually reached an area where it would make sense to sell off from here, and we can see we had some bearish reaction in this area. However, considering we're still trading above this more corrective price action here, going down to the 1-hour time frame, and we can also see we have a clear liquidity area here. And so we left this hook, and if price is then forming a clear 1, 2, 3 into this area before tapping the next higher time frame value area, I'm definitely happy to enter along in this area. Everything would look different, of course, if price suddenly, let's clean that up first here a bit, if price just continues to tickle up or then break above the next higher time frame value area, break back in, followed by a bearish continuation on the lower time frame, then of course I would entertain a short. But as long as we are trading below the higher time frame value area and would form some deliberate price action, I'm more leaning towards a long continuation. Euro New Zealand dollar looks very, very similar on the weekly time frame. You can see we are approaching again the previous high here, previous weekly high, and we still have room to go to the next higher time frame value area. On the 4-hour time frame, we can see we had a nice initial reaction here, and then a lot of corrective price action, very, very, even way more corrective than Euro Australian dollar, the example before. And we can see here we have an ascending channel, and what we see often in these channels is if it's a channel which is accumulating volume for the next bigger move, they tend to finish on kind of a flatter structure, and that's what I'm looking for, very similar to the previous example. As long as we are trading below this low here without tapping it, and we form a deliberate price action in form of preferably a three-touch structure into this liquidity area here, I would entertain a long here, because that would give me enough room to manage the trade from here into the next higher time frame value area. And if we accumulate so much volume and we see a deliberate structure at the end, that might be enough to push price quite a lot further, considering we still have a value area on the higher time frame higher up. Again, it looks different if price is just like tickling up into this previous high here to the left, breaking back in, followed by a smaller, lower time frame bear flag continuation, then of course I would entertain a short. But as long as we don't tap the previous high, I'm looking for a long to at least finish the last leg into the high. Euro Canadian dollar on the weekly time frame. We can see again, we have here two areas of interest. We already tapped one area of interest here, and then we have the next value area a bit higher up, and we're still trading between these two areas. And we had a bit of bearish momentum, but not too much. You see, we did not retrace anything. Basically, we're still trading within this range. And on the 1 hour time frame, we can see here we had some nice structure here, an initial sell-off, and then we had a 1, 2, 3 into this low here, basically the start of the structure, and then we failed to continue to the downside. Instead, we just broke back up with fair momentum in the beginning, and we now start to form continuation structures to then potentially go back up or even higher. And considering if this structure would be during the week into London or New York session, I would consider that enough to enter along here. But considering that's a weekend structure and we have this liquidity area here to the low, so we start with Asia next week, so I would not be surprised if price is first going back down, tapping this area, and we then see on the lower time frame bull flag continuation in this area to then enter along. Euro yen on the weekly time frame, we can see we are still in a very nice bullish momentum run. It looks a bit overextended, but we can also see we still have room to go. On the 1 hour time frame, we can see it a bit clearer, or actually 4 hours should be enough. We can see here we have some areas of interest. We do have the first next area to take care, which is this liquidity area here, the start of this bigger impulsive move to the downside. Then we have here another small structure, and of course the value area higher up. So right now I'm looking for price to at least finish the move into the first area of interest, and you can see we are trading. We had this corrective price action here, and then we finally broke out of this price action and are now starting to form another continuation. And I'm now looking basically for price to retest this whole area, which it did one time, and then preferably we form a two-touch, at least a two-touch structure here. That's a 4 hour structure for a 4 hour entry in this area to then manage the trade into the next smaller area of interest and potentially for a breakout to the upside. Swiss francs yen on the weekly time frame, we have nothing to worry on the left. We are on basically all-time highs again. We broke the previous high here to the left. We still have a big gap here, and we are in a very bullish momentum run. It looks a bit overextended as well. We are in new territory, so everything can happen. Going down to the 1 hour time frame, we can see here we have, since we broke the last high, we are in corrective price action here. And so we can see here we have this ascending channel. We had here a clear base. We broke out, retested the base once, twice. Price can just go further up, but do I consider taking longs here on this all-time? Not really. I'm looking more towards shorts, especially since price is clearly overextended, and we know a short in the yen pairs, they can sell off quite fast, quite aggressively, at least to the start, or retesting the previous high here to the left, which aligns more or less with the start of this corrective squeeze. So if we see a follow through, break outside this ascending channel, and then followed by bear flag continuation, I would entertain a short in this area. Australian dollar, Swiss francs on the weekly time frame, we had this low here. We still have a gap, clear gaps here to fill. Initially we were looking for bullish continuation, but we can see, price really turned around, and it now looks more like price is coming back down, at least clearing the gaps here, or even retesting, filling the wick here, retesting the low before we see the next bigger correction. going down to the 4-hour time frame, we can see again, that's quite common now the last weeks. All this price action is corrective. We had corrective ascending structure, then now we have a corrective descending structure, and we are looking for a flat structure here. We have again this corrective descending structure, and that's a 4-hour time frame. So if we see a clear 1, 2, 3, more of a flat structure here in this area and a 4-hour entry, I would entertain a short, even though we are so far down in the run, just to finish the leg down to the previous low here. Pound Canadian dollar on the weekly time frame, we still have room to go. A lot of room to go, but you can see also it's a bit corrective price action as well. We do have the next area of interest here to the left, so there's still quite a lot of room. And then we had this previous high, we tapped into the high the week before in form of an expanding structure. We had this 1, 2, 3 structure into the high, and then we had quite nice reaction. Here we were looking for it was neutral price action that could have been just also a long continuation here after this corrective price action, after tapping the high, but we broke with momentum through the low. We retraced more than 50% of the last leg, and we have nothing to worry right now, at least not into this area here to the left. And we are now looking for a short continuation. I actually took a trade here on the 1-hour time frame last week. I took this trade, which ended up in a break even. We had a nice structure. The structure overall was a bit higher risk because it was a bit small after this impulsive move. So I knew that I was expecting that price might form something bigger. That's why I let the trade run and ended up with the break even then. And now I'm looking for basically a bigger structure. Again, similar price did already enough. You can see here we tapped the override and there was an entry here, potential entry, but it's Friday evening, so you don't take an entry here. But price did more or less enough to warrant an entry. And we are now here in the last leg of an ascending squeeze again, so makes the price action slightly neutral. So I'm looking for price to finish that during Asia session, and if we get a 4-hour rejection and finishing this structure here with the 1, 2, 3, even though this is a squeeze, so that's why preferably a 4-hour reaction, then I would enter a short in this area here. Otherwise, if we just see price breaking below, very often if that happens during Asia, we see towards the end of Asia session a smaller continuation outside this structure, and then I would entertain even a lower time frame short in this area here. So yeah, that's it. That's my watch list for next week. Thanks for watching. See you next week. Bye bye.